Brooke Thorpe from My Clone Solution, your host for today's episode, and we are going to be talking about how you can stand out from the crowd. And we have Steve Sapato, who is the most famous unfamous speaker in America, and he is going to be talking about this very topic. So Steve, I need to stand out in a crowd. How do I do that?
Thanks, Brooke. That's really an interesting question. I always love it when we talk about those things because there are different ways to stand out in the crowd. The first thing you have to do is you have to be a good listener to everybody that's around you. You have to listen to, you know what makes you more popular? Listening. I've spent an evening just listening to 2 or 3 people all night. All they want to do is tell me about their stuff, and I'm bored to death, but I don't show it. It's like, hey, wow, no kidding, all right. And then at the end of the night, I'll hear them say to somebody else, or my wife will come back to me the next day after they talk to their wife and go, they said you were the most interesting person they've ever talked to. And I go, fascinating, since I have said hardly anything to them. You see, how we stand out is how other people perceive us. So I always say, when I'm walking into a crowd, when I walk into a big room or something and I want to be my best, I have a song that I play in my head. You guys have a song, a theme song? And when I play that theme song, I stand up straighter. I have a different walk to me. You know, I have a little more confidence maybe in my face and my posture, and I can walk into that crowd. And that's what you have to do in your marketplace too. If you're looking to stand out in your marketplace, right, you have to have something that stands out. You have to have, we talked about this before, you have to have a niche. You have to have a methodology. You have to have something that really stands out. I love to share with people ideas. And a lot of times, if you've gotten anything on my LinkedIn, I usually say something like, hey, great to connect with you. How can I help you? And I make several offers. And one of the things I offer is, I'm a great idea man, probably one of the best idea people you ever want to meet. Give me a call, right? I'm not saying I want to sell you anything. Sometimes a 30-minute conversation will break what you've got going on in your life. I have an idea. How about you? Do you have ideas that can help people? You want to stand out? Be the person who listens. Be the person who's attentive to that person. Be the person who cares about that person, and you're going to stand out. People will say, hey, you need to do this. I've been at networking events. I remember one specifically in California, and it was a big networking event. It cost you $15 to get in is all, but it was all about a bar type thing. So there were tons of people there. And I remember meeting somebody who said, I'm looking for a job. They came networking, looking for a job. I said, what do you do? They told me what they did. I'm like, great, hey, nice meeting you. I hope you have luck here. And then I went, met 20, 30, 40 other people, and somebody said, hey, I'm looking for an employee. I went, oh, what are you looking for? And honest to goodness, they said, this kind of person. And I went, wait a minute, I'll be right back. And I walked right across the room. I got that person. I brought him back, and I introduced him to this person. And both of them said, I want to learn more about you. Right? Because they said, you were so good at this. And they gave me their cards so I could contact them later and remind them of what we did that night. And you know what? They stayed in touch with me. Now it's been about 3 years. They still stay in touch with me 3 years later. And that's what we talk about. How do you stand out? What makes you special from all the other people who are out there trying to sell stuff, trying to market stuff, trying to find a way to get into people? Listen, pay attention to them, make them feel important. Right? That's what will help you to grow your business. Maybe not today. It might take you 2, 3, 4 months. I had a gentleman just a few months ago, and he called me up. And now I had known his father 30 years ago. He saw me on LinkedIn, I think it was. He wrote to me and said, are you the same Steve Sapato who used to live here? I went, yeah. And he went, well, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so's son. I went, oh, how cool. And we started up a conversation. He said, would you mind if I called you? I said, no, that would be great. I'd love it if you'd call me, right? Thinking we were going to talk about old times. And about 2 minutes into the conversation, he starts to pitch me on insurance. I went, what are you doing, John? What are you doing? And he says, well, what do you mean? I went, you're trying to sell me insurance? He goes, well, that's what I do for a living. I went, no, stop. And then I took another hour of his time to say, you're on entirely the wrong path. If this is how they taught you to try and sell insurance, you're only going to make enemies doing this. Right? If you'd have called me the first time and said, good sharing with you, Steve, can I call you again? And then called me again and we'd have talked about something else. And he said, can I ask you a question? I sell insurance. How do I go about approaching someone like you to sell insurance? Then we could have talked about it. And you know what? I wouldn't have known it was a sales pitch. It was him asking for advice. When you're out there, How do you stand out, right? In a crowd, care about the other person more than you care about yourself. Figure out a technique, figure out a path that you can take to help them help themselves, because what you offer better be helping them. Whether it's a refrigerator you're selling them, a car you're selling, whether it's insurance you're selling, whether it's programs like this you're selling them, find out how it's going to benefit them. Listen to them carefully, because you're going to have to ask all the right questions to see if you can find out how to benefit them, and then see if you can offer them that benefit. That's how you stand out in a crowd. And I hope that'll make a difference to you, right, Brooke?
Yes, Steve, and that's awesome. And I'm totally going to use that "I have an idea for you" line on LinkedIn, because people will respond to that, and asking their opinion and asking them or giving them options or giving them cool stuff are always the things that motivate people, especially online with the attention spans as short as they are. Thank you so much for being here, Steve, and thank you for watching another episode of Google My Business Problems. I am Brooke Borup, your host at My Clone Solution, and I will see you next week.